Welcome. I'm Melva Persico. Come with me, meet new people, and share their experiences in this episode of Our Culture to the World. And our guest today is Daniel Will. Daniel, please introduce yourself to our guest, please.
Good afternoon. First, I want to thank you for the opportunity to be speaking with you, just to share my culture, my background. My name is Daniel Will. I'm originally from Sierra Leone. Sierra Leone is situated on the west coast of Africa, right next to Liberia and Guinea. Mm-hmm. I immigrated, my family and I immigrated, my brothers and I immigrated to the U.S. in the early 80s, 1981, to be exact. Right after our schooling in Sierra Leone, so it was during the holiday season, which was the rainy season, July. We came over to the U.S. and directly to Washington, D.C. Washington, D.C. I went to schooling in the U.S. all my life, elementary, junior high, high school, college. So I basically grew up here, and as you can tell, my accent is not as noticeable as my other country members. Mm-hmm. But I grew up here. Mm-hmm. Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Oh, thank you so much for introducing yourself and telling us a little bit, starting us off to telling us exactly where you're from and so on. Yes. So you came here as a child, and you didn't, as you mentioned, most of your schooling here. How was that for you, though, as a young person coming to this strange country? Having to deal with school and other young American kids and so on. How was that kind of adaptation for you?
Well, we had to adapt, but being at that age, kids are always willing to try something new, something different. Mm-hmm. And of course, back home, all the pictures, the films that they show, America. Oh, you going to America? Oh yeah. Yeah, and we finally get here, and what happened was we arrived in the evening. It was dark. And we didn't see too many Caucasians. So we saw a whole lot of, Black African Americans, different cultures as well. So we were like, okay, we're going to wait till the morning and see, where the white people are. So morning came, and here we are. We keep seeing nothing but mostly 99%, Black folks. Mm-hmm. They look like me, and they look like us. So we were asking ourselves, where are the white people? And this was Northwest DC. And that area, when you compare that to another area where the demographics is a little bit different, mm-hmm. like Uptown, Tenleytown, you see more white folks, over there. But, it was a culture shock. The language, the accent was, really different. They would say something to us. It would take a few minutes, few seconds to kind of transliterate.
Right, process.
Process that. And then we say, oh, that's what he meant. And then, of course, our accent was so raw, was so thick. And, it only took a few weeks for us to start adapting, getting the accent right. So it was. That's a good question.
Yes. Wow. So I'm sure your classmates had lots of questions and ideas and maybe even stereotypes about people from Africa, when, you interacted with them. So how were you able to address those and dispel those, any stereotypes they may have had?
Well, the stereotypes were very strong. Kids that age, they have not been exposed to too many, different cultures, especially culture from Sierra Leone. So we've had to, kind of, in fact, one of my friends, I explained I'm from West Africa. He thought West Africa was the name of the country. I was just giving him general location. So he got mad at me. I assumed he knew where West Africa was. Mm-hmm. And so he can understand what geographic region I was referring to. Mm-hmm. And he got mad at me, and I told him, I'm from Sierra Leone. He said, "Man, you never told me that." I assumed that he would know, the different section of Africa. It was, the stereotypes were really strong. Some, those kids at that age, the only thing that they see is, movies, pictures. For example, like Tarzan. They used to show Tarzan, Sunday mornings, and we used to, get up and look at it. And being exposed to that, they really didn't know what Africa was about. They really didn't know. And we've had to explain to them, well, we don't live in trees. There are cars. The cities that look just like, DC, it might be a little bit different. The way buildings are, a little bit different. The architecture is quite, a little bit different. But, we've had to explain to them, yeah, we do ride in cars. Yeah, we do have things over there that are common in the U.S. The U.S. might be a little bit more advanced, but whatever you see here, you can see there.
Yeah, that's good. And it's good that you were able to do that, because, sometimes some kids they're so anxious to be a part of their community, with their peers, that maybe they might shy away from explaining and telling people where they're from, and so that it was good that you were able to educate them that way, because yes, many people just go on what the media feeds them, and the impression they get from the media is of the continent of Africa is very different from the reality.
Yes. I mean, it was so many different things I've had to explain. They see shows like, animals, National Geographic. They don't see any cities. They see nothing but animals, people chasing their animals and catching them. And where we live in Freetown, capital city of Sierra Leone, those things were not, they were, far off from the capital city. Now, unless you travel, to different regions, then you see some of those animals, not all.
Yes. Yes. So, what opportunities have you had? You've lived here from a child, and now you're a grown man. What opportunities have you had to share aspects of your home culture with people that you interact with, or have interacted with here in the U.S.?
I tend to use soccer, or football, if you will. During lunchtime, that's when we all come together, we play, and with our skills at that level, we were more advanced compared to the school kids. So people used to always approach me, "Hey man, where you from?" "I'm from Sierra Leone," and then that's an opportunity. "Oh, Sierra Leone, huh? I know a little something about Sierra Leone with the little history," and that's like a gateway for me to come in and explain. Slaves were brought from Sierra Leone, Freetown, if you will, to South Carolina, to mostly South Carolina. And to this day, you can go to South Carolina and they still use some of the cultures that we use when we cook rice. We cook the soup and put the soup directly over the rice. They still utilize those same, cuisines.
We do something like that in Guyana too.
Yes. So that's just an opportunity to do that. And I even take it further. I said, "Hey, you can come to my house and I'll let my mom cook you. I'm volunteering her to do all these different things so I can just express, what we eat." The national dish in Sierra Leone, I'm not sure if you've heard of it, cassava leaves.
Cassava leaves. No,
Yeah.
I know about cassava, and I know about the plant, and the root we use cassava too. I know the Americans call it yuca. They use the Spanish name yuca. But yes, but what do you do with the leaves?
The leaves are very nutritious. Not many people know about that, but you cut the leaves as in you pound it or grind it into a paste, and you can put different meats in there, beef, chicken, mostly dried fish, or anything you can put in there. And once you box it all up, it comes out.
So what, you make it like a kind of patty kind of thing?
Yeah.
Okay, and How do they fry it or bake it or?
No, you just kind of boil it, and you
Oh.
boil the leaves. It's real green. You boil the leaves, and once you start changing colors like a light brown, then you know it's ready to be consumed. But after you mix it up, put like, you can use coconut oil. You can use the red palm oil, which is very common back home. When you put all that together, it's awesome.
Oh, so you put it together and then you make, whatever the little, whatever shape you have it in, and you okay.
And you can pour that directly over the rice, the white rice.
Okay.
And if you try that for the first time, I guarantee you will be asking for seconds.
Okay. Yeah. So what is the name of that dish?
It's called cassava leaves.
Oh, just cassava leaves. Okay.
Cassava leaves, automatically it comes, you put that over rice.
Okay. Okay.
Of course, there are several, other dishes like okra, several others.
Let me ask you a question, because we do okra at home in Guyana too. How do you prepare the okra in Sierra Leone?
Okra, you can pound it or blend it and cook it. It's real slippery. Again, you put dried fish, all kinds of meats in there. It's cooked probably about the same way as cassava leaves, but it's just the one thing about okra, when you put everything in a pot, you don't want to cover it, because when you cover it, it doesn't draw. It doesn't. I don't want to say slime.
But
you can eat that with rice.
That's it.
With fufu, the way you eat it, by hand, you take it in.
Okay.
Which is pounded cassava. You soak it in water, you ferment it over a few days, and when it's ready, you pound it, you grate it or you blend it, and the way you cook it, you put it in a pot and you keep turning it, it becomes a thick paste.
Okay. I'm sorry. Yeah, the way we do okra is a little different. We kind of slice it up, cook it, and then we cook it with meat, with oil and, with meat and so on, and make a kind of a stew, if you want to say that, and eat that with rice. But so it's interesting. You have some of the same things, but prepared differently.
Differently, yes.
Mm-hmm. So I have to, one of these days, I have to eat some food from Sierra Leone.
Oh, yes, please, by all means.
Yeah, so that's good. And then, as you said, soccer, and there's something else that you didn't mention. We kind of talked about this before we got started, but we didn't get to talk about soccer. Well, soccer, like you said football, because yes, I'm from Guyana and we were colonized by the British, and we say football. It's and the Americans say soccer. How come football, soccer, is so popular in Sierra Leone?
Well, I guess it started from way back yonder. When you grow up, that's the most common thing. You can see, kids congregating in a park. The first thing they want to do is play soccer, with their feet. As compare that to American basketball, the first thing they start feeding you that basketball at a very young age. So you tend to grow with that. Americans, have a lot more sports to choose from, whereas Africans or Sierra Leoneans, our main sport is soccer or football. There are other sports, but soccer, comes is number one.
Comes up on top. Yes, yeah. And you let's talk about language just for a little bit. What language or languages do they speak in Sierra Leone? Okay.
Originally, there were the most common language is Creole, broken English, or patois. There are two Creoles. You got French Creole, spoken by Haitians, if you will, and then you have English Creole.
English-based Creole, yeah.
Yes. And in fact, some Nigerians have the Pidgin Creole. I mean, they break it up. It doesn't sound like ours, but ours is it's a little bit different. The accent is there. When we speak, they cannot comprehend. But when they speak, we can understand everything they say. With that, let me go back a little bit of history. When the slaves, came to America, they wanted to speak like the Americans, the English. They couldn't speak it so well. When they went back to Sierra Leone, that's where the language developed, broken English. So because they couldn't speak the English language fluently, but they broke it up, and that's hence you get the Creole.
Yeah. Let me just pause to stop you a little bit there. Just to put in a little bit of linguistic reality there. It really isn't broken English, but it's a language in its own right, Creole, because it has its own grammatical structure.
You're absolutely correct. You're absolutely correct. It's a language in itself.
Right. So
there are
in
no
addition,
standards.
Right. So in addition to the Creole, what else? So we actually we say it's an English-based Creole and a language in its own right. So what other languages are there?
There are 12 languages. I think that number has increased. 12 original languages in there. Shabro is one, Kono, Limba, Susu, Maningo, Fula, Mendes, and up to 12 different languages.
Yeah.
Right. Where some of the languages can be somewhat interrelated, like the Timnese and the Shabros. There's some words that they borrow from each other, as well as the Mendes as well. So my parents, both of my parents, both Shabros, and the Shabro, you mainly live in the southern part of Sierra Leone.
Yes, but English. What role does English play in that country in terms of language?
English, in the schools, because they teach English. In the playground, the kids, will speak Creole because that's what they're mostly, comfortable with. But English throughout the whole country, they speak English. I mean, some that go to school, will speak the language, whereas it will be more prevalent, like in the capital city in Freetown. I mean, it's thriving and bustling, and people going, back and forth. That's where opportunities to go to school mainly is in Freetown. So you have more English speaking students, if you will, or educated in the government sectors, in the school sectors, in the hospitals. You'll see, professionals speak English.
Okay. Yes. So, what are some things that you feel that people here in the U.S. can learn from the life and culture of Sierra Leone?
Ooh. The life and culture of Sierra Leone is, although Sierra Leone is a small country compared to the U.S., you can see mostly all immigrants, if you will, that come to the U.S., being a Sierra Leonean, we don't want to forget our roots. We don't want to forget our language. We don't want to forget our culture, our cuisine. When I was younger, at that age, we were teased so much, called names and different things. Even to wear something like this, would be very difficult because in our minds, we shied away from that. From, if they saw our classmates, if they saw us wearing this, they would call us names. So it's one thing at that age, but now, I'm very proud of being a Sierra Leonean, and I would never, give up my culture. It is so rich, it's so thick, and I just love it. I love it.
That's important. And there are two things based on what you say that I want to follow up on, because first of all, tell us about what you're wearing.
Okay, it's just a regular. When we're growing up, they used to call it gar, but it's a different name now. It's not really gar. Gar is made in a different way. Maybe I should have worn one of them. But this is just a very simple shirt that's very common back home. You can see people wearing this, even in the business office. You know, not in schools. You know, the schools, you know, do require for the kids to wear uniforms. But you can see this is very popular, very common, very, you know, it's breathable. You know,
cool.
the temperature is normal, is hot.
Yes.
So you don't want to wear, you know, a 3-piece suit if you have it, you know, anywhere you go. But this is very common, very cheap, and very practical, you know, if you will.
Right, for the climate, yes. And then you mentioned, you know, not forgetting your roots, not forgetting your culture. And that is very important because, you know, you hear this thing about melting pot, and that you know, we talk about, is it a melting pot or is it a salad bowl or a mosaic? Well, you know, no, what I'm trying to say is that we don't want to forget, you know, to just kind of adapt to everything that we meet when we migrate. But there are aspects, like you rightly said, you have this desire to retain elements of who you are, your identity as a Sierra Leonean, and to keep that culture alive. And so that's important because there's some who feel that, well, you must forget that and become fully American in the sense of, you know, doing everything this way, the American way, and not, you know. I thought that was an important point, you know, the fact that you mentioned that.
Yes, it's you're right. It's very important not to lose your cultural background. That's your original culture. It doesn't matter where you go, you end up in this world. You should take that with you. Although you're going to become part, you know, subset in that mixing bowl, or should I say salad bowl?
Salad bowl.
You don't completely mix. You are adapting to the place where you are now. However, you know, on the back of your mind, you're still remembering what your culture is. You should not, no one should be forced to forget their culture, or they should forget their culture, you know, that easily. Because you, at that time, you might want to go back, you know, and see where you came from. You know, you will always want to go back to see where you came from. It'd be like a void, like a hole in your life. You know, you've achieved, you know, in different cultures, but now you want to go back to your home, your hometown, you know, where you came from, and it's therapeutic, very therapeutic. You go back, you retain so much. You think you would have forgotten it, but when you go back, you see, oh my goodness, I'm so glad, you know, I still remember this. I still practice this.
How often do you get to go back?
Ooh. When we came in 1981, I didn't personally get to go back until 34 years later.
Wow.
34 years later. My father had passed. So we went back to, in 2014, to do a memorial for him. And then I came back 2 years later, you know, for a visit. In fact, I'm getting ready to, you know, make plans to go back. If it hadn't been for COVID, I would have gone back, you know, quite often. Yeah. My younger brother goes back quite a lot more frequently than I do. And I'm making a list now, you know, when I go back, first thing I'm gonna, you know, order, fix me cassava leaves, fix me this, because everything is fresh. Everything, some people don't have the luxury of having deep freezer to freeze food for extended time. Everything you go to the market, you buy fresh and you consume it on that same day. So everything is fresh.
Healthy food.
Yes.
But and what lessons have you learned from living away from your home country, your country of birth?
The lessons I've learned is, you know, being teased so much and trying to hide, my culture, my accent, even my clothes. Those things are not good, for one to do at that age. But as I evolved, as I got a little bit older, it was, teaching me, not to ever forget my culture, because my culture can, either, make me stronger, and go and utilize that cultural background to strive for anything, whether schooling, education in Sierra Leone is big, but there are so many poor people. You could see them. They might be going to school. They might not be wearing shoes. However, they are on their way to school. They might not have a brand new school uniform, but at least they might have holes in their pants or no shoes. They're still going to school. Now, mind you, when they come out, when they finish schooling, there probably won't be any jobs for them, because the employment rate is sky high. But on the back of their minds, they thinking, education is very important. Once I attain, my education, no one can ever take it away from me. Mm-hmm. So it'll always be with me. When the opportunity presents itself in the future, I already have the education. I already have the training required, to go and seek any job that I need. Mm-hmm. So growing up in Sierra Leone, those first few years, kind of ingrained, in my mind that education is paramount. You cannot take education lightly. So that's the philosophy that I brought over to the U.S. All my classes, I never cut classes. I always, I guess I was the good student.
And I guess your parents instilled that in you too.
Yes, exactly. Parents, big brothers, aunties, they encourage, the students back home, get your education. So that's the blessing that we brought over from Sierra Leone to America. And we just, kind of rode that wave to get through schooling, to get through, the job or any challenge that we face, personally that I face. I know that challenge is not always going to be there forever. But with the background that I have, we used to walk 5 miles to school, but now, to walk to school, it's only a mile. I can do that. So those are things that I use, to get my education or to face any challenges.
Right. Yes. And as we wrap up, what are your final thoughts on the importance of appreciating other cultures? You mentioned a little bit of it earlier when you were talking, but if you could just bring that together, and if there's anything else you wanted to add about the importance of appreciating other cultures.
Living in Sierra Leone those first few years, there are several, other immigrants that come to Sierra Leone, like the Lebanese, some whites, mostly from British, other countries too, even Chinese, they came. So we kind of, saw a small glimpse of that. So when we immigrated to the U.S., we saw a lot more of that. And some people, find it amazing that we were able to kind of adapt to the different cultures, that salad bowl, if you will, and we still kept, our culture on the back of our mind. We were able to get along with just about anybody or any different cultures. So again, that's the one thing I would like to say is this would be a very important point. Every school age, high school kids, they're about to graduate. They should give them that opportunity, before they graduate, they get that diploma to go to another culture, Sierra Leone. Just to go and see and experience, different cultures, the things that we take for granted here. When you get there, it'll open your eyes and say, oh my goodness, look at these kids. They're trying so hard. They only have a fraction of what we have in the U.S. So look at what they're doing. When those kids come back, it changes, the outlook on life. Mm-hmm. I mean, some kids, they go to European countries and study for a year. whether it be French, Germany. Yeah, they do that. And then when they finish, they come back home to their parents. You see a drastic change in their outlook on life. They don't take things for granted anymore. They have the possibilities are numerous. So you kind of use that to your advantage. And yes. The world is not just in America. When you travel to another country, is an education in itself.
Yes. Yes, I agree with you. Just opens your eyes, broadens your horizons, and yes. So Daniel Will, thank you so much for being with us today, for talking with me, for sharing aspects of Sierra Leonean life and culture and your experiences as an immigrant, coming here as a child and spending most of your life in the U.S., but still retaining your culture. And I'm looking forward to eating some of those and some cassava leaves one day, cassava leaf and fufu. So, okay.
You have my information. Any questions at all, I can give you some tips on what you need to order, after you go through each cuisine.
Okay.
Very tasty, very healthy for the body.
That's right up my alley.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. So, to the viewers, thank you so much for watching today. And we'll see you next time as we meet new people and continue to share their experiences in our next episode of Our Culture to the World. Thank you again, Daniel. Bye.
Thanks for the opportunity.